Hi, welcome back to Greenleaf Family Farms. My name is Amanda, and today we are going to make some pork spare ribs. So we thought that we'd have you join us. I took and split my ribs in half this way because they were a little bit too long for me to work with my cutting board. So now I'm going to show you what our next steps would be, which is taking off the silver skin on the back, because that can make it a little bit tough. But we are going to cook them in the Instant Pot, so if we don't get all of it, it'll be all right. So let me show you how we would do that. So we're going to take our ribs from the back side, and you're going to see there's a little skin. I've already lifted it up a little bit, but there's a little skin there, and we're going to take and we're going to try to pull that off as good as possible. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we are doing it in the Instant Pot, so it's going to cook down really well. But this is what that skin will look like. So I'm just kind of using my knife to get under there a little bit, and then using my finger afterwards to get in there a little bit more. And then the paper towel helps me really grip it, so that way I can pull it the rest of the way. So I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'll show you how we cut it down before we put it in the Instant Pot. Gotten all of that silver skin off of here. This is what it looks like now. And what I'm going to do is just get it cut down a little bit so it fits better into the Instant Pot. So all I'm going to do is take the underside here. You can see where the bones are at here. And then you have this bone here on this side. And we're just going to cut that here. And I'm going to cut all the way down and through that. There's going to be some bone or gristle or cartilage in there that you're going to need to cut through. So we're going to cut through that. I think I need some sharper knives because my knives aren't very sharp. But we're going to just cut through this, and then we're going to leave them into the ribs, about 4 of them together. So I'll probably cut here also to cut the ribs apart here. And that's just so that way we have, this will be like 1 serving of ribs right here, 4 ribs. And then I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. Get off that extra fat there. So I'm going to set this one aside. This has 4 ribs on it. And then I'm going to keep cutting this one down a little bit. And then I'm also going to separate this here in the middle because there is another bone up here at the top. And we want to make sure that we have that one separated. So I'm going to cut down the middle of this here. It does work better if you have a really sharp knife, which I do not have. And any of the parts that you need to, you just bend it backwards to break that cartilage up. So I've broken a piece of the cartilage up in here, and then that last cut. So I've got this piece here. And then on this one, we're also going to cut that top piece off. All right, and I've got that top piece off. So I've got this piece and this piece that are going to go in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in the Instant Pot now so I can get the next one cut down. So I got all of those other pieces in, and now I've got the second piece, which is the smaller piece of the 2. I had already cleaned this one up a little bit. So I'm going to get ready to put this one in the Instant Pot also. What I'm going to do is just bend it forward to feel where the bone actually is compared to where the cartilage is. And I'm going to cut right there. And I'm going to cut straight across. So I've got that there. And then because I don't want this piece to be too small, I'm going to also cut there. So I'll have this piece. I'm going to put that right on in there. And then I will take this one and I will split it into ribs. So I'm going to split here, which is going to be 3 on this side and 2 on this side. Actually, I wonder if I should do 2 and 3 this way. I think I'll do 2 and 3 that way. Either way, it's all going to get eaten. So I've got 3 ribs there and 2 ribs there. And then this last piece, I'm just going to probably cut that little piece off and leave it as 2 separate pieces because we want these ones a little bigger. So there's that piece and then that piece. We've got all of our ribs inside the Instant Pot, and now we're going to use our seasoning. So I'm going to use 1 heaping tablespoon of chicken bouillon, and then also 1 heaping tablespoon of tomato bouillon also. And then we're going to put in 1.5 cups of water. And then we are going to get the lid on this and we're going to start the process of cooking it in the Instant Pot. So the lid is on and locked in. I'm just making sure that it's not on the venting because we don't want the air to come out. So we're going to make sure that it gets sealed. And then we're going to go ahead and turn this on. And we're going to do just pressure cook, and we're actually going to cook it for 1 hour. And then we'll be back in about an hour. Our ribs are done in the Instant Pot. I'm doing the fast release or instant release right now, so the air is actually coming out of the pressure canner, so that way we can get started on the next step for our ribs. We're probably going to leave them for a couple of minutes before we actually even take them out, but I wanted to just take a look just to make sure that everything is cooked thoroughly in there, and we can continue on to our next step, which we are going to put them in the oven. We're going to put some seasoning on them and then put them in the oven and bake them. We're pretty much just going to bake them to get a little bit of a crust on the outside of them. They're going to be completely cooked through, and they should be fall off the bone by the time it's actually time to eat. All right, so they're no longer pressurized. Sometimes if I do too many ribs at a time, the ribs aren't falling off completely, and I put it on for another 15 to 20 minutes in the Instant Pot, but it looks like they're doing pretty good. We're going to take a look at it now. All right, this is what our ribs look like inside that Instant Pot. So they're here. You can tell how soft they really are. They're almost they're falling apart from the bone when I give a little bit of pressure on them. They're pretty much all falling off the bone. Here's that one falling off. So it looks like that 1 hour was perfect amount of time. So we're going to let these just sit in here to cool off a little bit. And then we'll get them on our cooking sheets, and get them all seasoned up and ready for the next step. My ribs have rested long enough in the Instant Pot. So now what I'm going to do is just take them out and put them on my lined cooking sheet. So that way we can get the seasoning on them. We don't want to put them in the oven to dry them out. We're just going to put them in the oven long enough to get the seasoning coated on and a little bit of maybe some dark bits on them, but that's about it. We don't want to, again, dry them out and make them gross. I do take my bones and also leave my bones on my pan because I really like to chew on the bones afterwards, and they'll be nice and seasoned up. So we're just going to get all of these on here. And they should all fit on this pan. on one pan. But if we need to, we can pull out a second one. And that's it. We got a couple little pieces that fell off the bone in there. A couple of bones. And it looks like we got everything else in there. Alright, and then we're going to season them today with the buttery steakhouse by Kinder's, along with the hickory rub by Grill Masters. I like both of these. This one has a little bit of sweetness to it, and this one is nice and buttery. So I'm going to use both of these, and I'm going to put the seasoning right on the ribs before I get them in the oven. And again, we're not going to put them in the oven for very long. It's really just to get this seasoning baked in there a tiny bit. This one's nice and smoky smelling. And I love the taste of it. Alright, this is exactly what they look before we get them in the oven. So we're going to get them in the oven. We're probably only going to put them in for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take them out. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Our timer just went off for our ribs, so we're going to pull them out and see what you all think. This is what those ribs look like. And we're going to give them a taste test in a few minutes after they cool down enough so I won't burn myself. And we just want to say thank you for joining us as we make some ribs that we're already going to eat anyway. Harper says they look good.
Even though I'm vegetarian.
Even though she's vegetarian. And she won't even taste test them. Maybe I can convince her this time. We'll see. Thank you again.
Bye.
Before the whole pan gets eaten, because that's how we're eating them, is just straight off the cookie sheet, I'm going to just show you how tender these really are. So this is just a regular butter knife, and I'm not going to put a whole lot of pressure on there. But look at this. This is with my left hand also, intentionally. Look at how easily that just fell apart from the bone right there. Hardly any pressure. Jason and Junior are going to come in and taste test them in a minute, and we'll hopefully get that recorded unless they come over here and devour them beforehand. The taste testers are here, so they're going to go ahead and grab themselves a rib and tell me what they think. I've already eaten a couple of them and I know exactly how they feel. Taste. Wait. We're giving the bones to the dogs, so the dogs are here waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to eat them. I hear no complaints from either one of them, so I'm assuming they taste really good. What do you guys think? Mm-hmm. Delicious, fall off the bone ribs? Sounds like it. Thumbs up at least? Now that your hands are full of 2 ribs and a bone? I just keep getting the head nods over here. And then the dogs, like I said, they're getting the bones.
Oh.
They can do tricks for bones, huh? All right, again, thank you so much for watching our videos. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you again soon. Stealing another rib over there, huh? Oh, and another one.
I told you.
Enjoy.